Stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody here to a City of Shelton Commission meeting. First item on our business will be our weekly commission reports, and we usually start with Commissioner Moore.
Okay. First of all, I hope you've all had an opportunity to drive down Railroad Avenue, and I hope that you will all get back to us. There's a link on our website for comments as to if you love it or if you just like it a little bit or you don't like it at all. But please do just drive on it and let us know. I, for one, love it, and it was really fun last week going down and watching them actually tape it off and paint the stripes, and I got to paint a stripe. They didn't let me do an arrow, but I did get to do a stripe. So that was great. So today, this week, I have a Mason Transit Authority Board meeting tomorrow. On Wednesday, I have a meeting to talk about trash with the Day of Caring project that we're working on with United Way, Shelton to the Top, Mason Conservation District, Mason Public Health, and I just found out today the Skookum Rotary is going to be joining us too, so that's exciting. And so I have that meeting on Thursday. I will be talking with a local artist, Tim Duffy, who is working on some drawings and prototypes that he would like to submit for as part of the visioning process, which one of the stated goals is to have more public art. And so Tim is working on some pieces for that. I'll be looking forward to meeting with him. On Friday, I have a tour of the Roosevelt Regional Landfill, which will be very interesting. It's award-winning, and it's one of the options that we're looking at to keep our garbage department solvent, and so we're looking at some of the things that they have suggested that we do for that. And so I think that is it for this week.
All right, Commissioner McDowell.
Tuesday is the candidates forum at the Olympic Middle School, I believe, 6 p.m.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to that too.
And I'm going to try to get there. I'm having grandkids come in, so I'm kind of hoping that they'll wait a little bit before they come. But I'm going to try to get to that. That, for local government is very, very important, and almost more important sometimes than the higher up government, because it starts at the bottom, is the old saying. So if anyone is interested, not sure who they want to vote for or what the candidates believe and stand for, that's a great way to go see that. And I think it's hosted by the Chamber, I believe. So, and then Friday I'm going to be going on the tour to Roosevelt to tour the Roosevelt Regional Landfill. So that's my week.
All right, and today I attended a fundraising event out at the Alderbrook Golf Course by Love Inc. It's a local organization that gets funds and gives it to people that want a hand up in life, and it offers educational opportunities, clothing, food, many things like that. So I had an opportunity to out and eat a lot of barbecue. And so tomorrow it will be also Candidates Night at the Olympic Middle School. I'll be attending that. Wednesday will be a Criminal Justice Board meeting that I am a member of. And then Thursday we're going to have downtown I believe it's the Bite or... See?
I forgot.
I know you'll be there.
We'll be there.
The Bite or it's a business expo downtown, and so I'm looking forward to doing that on Thursday. And that completes our, oh, and Commissioner Moore wants to add another one, so that completes
Yeah.
my weekly commission reports.
Okay, sorry, I have an
That's all right.
addition. I just want to announce that the next Shelton Metropolitan Park District meeting will be on July 25th at 1:45. I hope you can all join us there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is general public comment period, and so if you have something you want to speak about, you need to sign in, and then we will call your name, and we allow 3 minutes per person per topic. So, Leslie Ann, are we ready to see someone?
We are, Ms. Shelley Bennington.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Shelley Dunnington. I live at 616 Holly Drive. And I called Mr. Clark about 10 weeks ago to address that Holly Drive has some major ruts in it. You guys, I've lived there for almost 17 years. In September will be 17 years. You guys used to yearly go up and grade it and oil it. The last few years, we know that you don't oil it because of some environmental issue, but Mr. Clark was very rude and condescending to me to share that you don't have time or money for our road. So I have given you guys a petition from every single resident on our road stating that we would like it fixed. It will take minimum dollars to fix the ruts. I don't know if this is coincidental or not, but Sheriff Salisbury's parents lived at the end of our road. They've moved, and now our road is no longer being taken care of. So I don't know if that's coincidental or not, but it is an issue for us. All of our residents are willing to come down. I do have other people from but I talked to Mayor Krantz, who's addressed it earlier, so we didn't feel like we needed to impact your whole room with it. Not trying to be rude, we would just like minimal dollars spent on some gravel to fill the potholes on our road so that it's not wear and tear on a vehicle. So,
Thank you for coming and bringing this issue before us. I called you and talked to you about that, and I called my city administrator as soon as we talked, and I said, I don't know anything about the situation other than you are a ratepayer here in the city of Shelton, and you deserve to had your concerns listened to, and this is a great forum to do that, and I don't think anybody here is against doing that. I said we kind of had to go through, okay, where is it on the list? What do we usually do? And so I'm sure that we can hopefully help you in this issue from my perspective. And I think our city minister may have a few words he might want us to say. I think he went and looked at it before we talked even. So did you want to say anything on that?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Shelley. Actually, Mr. Clark and I drove the road this morning. We went up it, and we turned around and came back down and dealt with the traffic counts. Yeah, there needs to be some improvement on the road. Actually, later in the meeting, I'm going to have a suggestion for the commissioners about how to start considering to set policies for road improvements under the transportation benefit district. We are, which are paid for through sales tax, as are people who live in the county like myself, not in the city. We're paying for it through sales tax. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. I don't know what the solution will be or how soon it will be, but you're not being ignored.
okay, and you guys need to realize that the runoff of Turner comes down our street too. As you can see, it causes
I didn't know that was still happening. I saw some improvement by the use of an asphalt berm there, but maybe that also needs to be looked at.
So, yes, it
Okay.
does. So if you can, you'll be able to see down our road, down like our side of the street and stuff. You can
Sure.
see the ruts from the water
Yeah.
draining all
It's-
the way,
It's
Down
the
there.
ultimate solution is more than just grading the potholes.
right.
Okay.
But the immediate is, we do need the potholes. It's at one end. We need some gravel, something that, the residents shouldn't have to continue to pay for the filling of those potholes.
Okay.
So,
All right.
We
thank
are
you.
on it. We
All
are
right.
on it, and I'm sure all of us, if anybody else would like to say, thank you for doing what you did. You did the
So-
right thing,
So
You
thank
came and you talked to us, you got a petition signed here, and we are going to address that. And so I don't know if any other commissioner want to say anything to you, but we thank you for what you did, okay? Thank you very much. All right, anybody else signed up next?
Mayor, there are two more speakers, but they'd like to speak under F and G.
Oh, okay, then anybody want to speak right now? If not, we'll move forward. And at this point, what we're going to do is recess out of our regular meeting, and we're going to open up a public hearing regarding Resolution 1091-0716, the Comprehensive Six-Year Transportation Improvement Plan. We're going to turn the meeting over to our city engineer, Mike Michael, at this time.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'll keep this pretty brief as we do this every year, and we talk about it 3 or 4 times before we get to the end of it. So this is our annual look at the list of street and transportation-related projects that's out there. As you were informed last week when this was first brought up, it hasn't changed a whole lot. We are making slow progress. We did drop a project off, the Lake Boulevard project.
Yay!
This is a requirement of RCW 3577 that every year we look at the needs of our transportation system and create a list of those needs for use not only by ourselves for planning and budgeting purposes, but also regional and state agencies as part of their planning efforts for funding, particularly for the federal monies coming out of Federal Highways Administration. Again, the list is our current list. You'll notice the top, I believe it's 8 projects. 6 projects, excuse me, are noted with a S in the funding status. Those are our secured projects, and primarily we're talking about a couple ongoing maintenance activities, as well as our downtown creeks, our safe routes, Evergreen School Safe Routes project, and the park and ride projects over by the Pear Orchard, which we're in the process of working on getting completed over the next year or so. So with that, I'm going to leave it to questions by you all and our citizens.
Well, usually, we do the public testimony first, and then when we talk, so I think that's a good policy. So was there somebody like to speak to this?
Ms. Marilyn Vogler.
Okay. Please state your name for the record.
Marilyn Vogler, 420 East Poplar. I have a series of, I hope, brief comments and questions. Item number 3 is the Downtown Creek Sidewalk Project. I want to state again that I am adamantly for daylighting the creek. This was something you've talked about. We've now really worked on making Railroad a more beautiful part of the city. I'm delighted to hear we have an artist interested in it. It seems to me to back out of the notion of daylighting that creek is a way to spend the money quickly because we have to, because it's a grant and because we'll have to pay it back. I really wish, since it is not design complete, that you would look very seriously at daylighting that portion of the creek and consider some of the comments that were made in the visioning process and the walkabout town. Item number 5 is the State Route 3 Pine Street entryway. You don't have any city dollars listed, and I was under the impression that was a grant. I don't know if we've spent our own portion of it already, but I'm curious to know whether all of the money at this point is grant money or whether someone else is contributing. Item number 20 is a truck route. This is a planning item. I think this should be very high priority. When SPI came in, there was a lot of talk about, well, they're going to reroute their trucks. We're going to make sure the trucks don't go through downtown. The last I heard, they haven't quite committed to that yet. We also have work being planned at the intersection of 101 and Wallace-Neeland, that because of the number of large trucks that may eventually be coming in there. It seems to me you want to plan your truck route before you do all of these other things rather than after. So I hope you'll prioritize that. Item 23 is a Railroad Avenue corridor study. I had thought, given the description that this was from 11th to the city limits, that this was the project being funded with the Commerce grant that Senator Sheldon brought to the city related to kickstarting our economy after the mills closed. I don't see any dollar commitment, and it's way down on the list, and so I'd like to know what that is, if not that Commerce grant. Thank you. Oh, one more thing. You mentioned several times through this that you're going to improve ADA cuts and improve ADA accessibility. Given that, one of the comments that came up during the striping was that we need handicap parking on downtown streets. So I hope that's in the plan.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else under this section? Okay. So now, fellow commissioners, now is our opportunity to talk about this. It's been brought before us, I think, 3 or 4 times, and we've looked at many pieces of this. Would you like to start?
Yeah, I am interested in Marilyn's comments. I couldn't find you there for a second. I, too, am very much in favor of daylighting creeks, and we have discussed that as to maybe during the planning we can bring part of that conversation back in at least. My continual comment is that First Street Bridge is of national historic significance, and at the time, which will be several years down the road, unless it becomes an emergency situation, we will be looking at, or I want to make sure we look at alternatives to just taking the bridge out. Other than that, I don't have the answers for the questions that Marilyn asked. I don't know if our public works staff would have those, or if Pete does. I know that with the Railroad Avenue feasibility study, that's more in Steve's realm. And so I'm not sure if it's broken into sections. And so those are my comments. We need to make sure these are all legal and adopted by us so that we do have good standing when it comes time to apply for the grants.
I think it'd be proper. You can, if you have answered any of those questions.
Yeah, several of them, if not all of them, I can answer. First, the Railroad Avenue Corridor Study. I suppose technically the work that we are doing now could be an initial step in that project. Didn't catch it when I was doing the update this year. That money that's there could be considered a first phase of that work. This is probably realistically more of the after the concept is kind of derived, and the engineering work and the preliminary work associated with getting to a constructible project after that point. But it's a good point that money is applying towards that. The Pine Street entryway corridor, that's the project everybody's known as the Pear Orchard.
Yes.
That is 100% grants. That was an environmental enhancement grant. 150,000 is approximately how much of that original grant is left, and the piece of the work that we have developed that meets the original grant intent is somewhere around that dollar figure to complete. Let's see. The truck route is a placeholder at this point. It is something that needs to be looked at over time. We do some of that as we're developing the other projects. ADA was the other piece. We do always have to include ADA in any of these projects to meet the federal requirements, as well as historic preservation items and review of any structure that's within the right-of-way.
Yeah, I'm just that nagging voice. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, and Downtown Creeks, Commissioner Moore was correct. We had done some initial look at potential methods to at least partially daylight some of those sections. That was kind of where we put the project on the shelf. We had gotten some ideas and then stopped. We'll probably pick up there again and look at how those ideas fit in with meeting the grant requirements and what we can employ in the project to do as much as possible of that.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner McDowell?
So I see at the top 1 and 2 are the maintenance overlays and chip sealing. Anyway, the maintenance on, are those going, do we have the roads in a list of the roads we want to do, or?
We do. The crews manage a specific list on an annual basis as part of their workload. That's the information that the commission has previously looked at through various budget meetings and stuff. The primary reason that these are on here is not so much for the federal funding, but the ordinance that originally set up our REIT 2 real estate excise tax. That language in that code, that ordinance that set that up, specifically stated that the project had to be on the TIP to be eligible to use that money. And since at that time, about 7 years ago, the commission really wanted to use some of that money for these two larger maintenance items, we added these ongoing projects to facilitate that.
So do these include dirt roads?
They can, as that becomes a priority for the use of those funds. And
Okay.
with the Transportation Improvement District, as we get larger pots of funds, we can start doing more of that either through our in-house work or through smaller, small works type contracts.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And again, just to remind everybody that this is not something that's set in concrete. This is a look ahead. This is a projection on where we've been and where we're going. And that it's just like the daylighting of a creek, that as more funds are available, we can, but this is I think it's good to take this list like we do every year, add to it, look what we've done, and we talk about it at our retreats. And so I feel comfortable with where we are on this, but it's always good to have public input, and it always helps us make our decisions, especially on things like truck routes. When you've got a new mill coming on down there, that did tweak my interest a little bit. And so, but this is not in concrete. So do we feel comfortable as a commission tonight of actually placing this on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I do also.
Yes.
So I think what I'll do is at this point is close the public hearing, return to our regular meeting, and we concur that, to follow staff's recommendation, to place this on the consent agenda for July 25th, 2018. Thank you. Next is our normal consent agenda. Are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Could we
Yes.
please have that, Leslie Ann?
Consent agenda, vouchers numbered 12062 through 12165 in the amount of $296,699.29. Payroll warrants numbered 2299 through 2443 and 12038 through 12060 in the amount of $630,425.90. Handwritten warrant numbered 12061 in the amount of $6,484.19 to KeyBank. Manual warrant numbered 12168 in the amount of $1,601.38 to Shelton High School ASB. Annual warrant numbered 12169 in the amount of $118.24 to Shelton Girls Basketball. Manual warrant numbered 12170 in the amount of $25,402.98 to the Department of Revenue. Commission meeting minutes from business meeting of July 5th, 2016, and study session of July 11th, 2016. Upper Mountain View Pressure Zone Parametrics Contract. Authorize the mayor to sign when returned from contractor and city administrator to make any necessary budget modifications. Porter, Foster, Rorick LLP, contract for legal services. Authorize the mayor to sign.
Okay, are we,
I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
thank you.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda passes. We have an item under old business that we've been talking about for a little while, and Mr. Greg Clark of our Public Works Department is going to bring the well options to us tonight.
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, we have been talking about our well number one for several weeks. We had quite an extensive look under the hood at different options the commission might entertain as to what we can do there. And so we put together, I should say, Pete really helped in putting together kind of a succinct list of the three elements that really the commission has a choice to make tonight. We hope you make tonight so we can move forward with whatever you desire. The option one is simply to drop the existing well pump about another 42 feet if it'll go down that far. Costs about $20,000 to do that. What that would give us is when that particular well comes on, it draws down the head to a point now where it's within 10 feet of the top of the pump, and we can't allow air to get into the system, so we have to shut it down. And this would allow for another 42 feet ahead above the pump, and that seems like a good idea given the fact that we're going to need to live with the existing well until we can get some things designed if option two gets into play. But this would be an immediate fix for around $20,000 to do that. We wouldn't be pulling it all the way out. It would just be lowering it into the home a little bit further down into the casing. Option number two is to recondition that existing well. It would be replacing the existing pump. We'd need some engineering to accomplish that, around $30,000 is estimated. We then would have to demo that existing pump house building because in order to clean this thing properly, they need more space to stage for that and the big crane and the different cleaning elements. We would TV inspect the well. That's about $120,000 to do the whole cleaning process where they pull out the existing pump, they TV the inside of the casing, and determine exactly what's needed. They brush it, they clean it. That's about $120,000. We would be obviously putting a new pump back in the hole. We wouldn't want to put an old pump. That existing pump's about 27 years old. We'd need to update that and also provide for that additional 42 feet ahead. And we may get in there and find that the perforations in the casing have issues. And so as we talked in here, about $35,000, if we needed to add additional holes lower in the casing or at the appropriate level, we'd need to do that, and there might be some additional costs. But to do the reconditioning, including the design for the new pump, demoing and rebuilding the pump house is about $195,000 estimated at this point. This we hope we would get a significant amount of life out of, and it seemed like talking to the Arcadia Well Drilling and that this is a really good candidate for us to look at, given our funding situation. And so that's option two. Option three gives us the ability to move water from the reconditioned pump up into Upper Mountain View pressure zone, which is our highest pressure zone, which then once the water gets to that elevation, we can move it down through the system using altitude valves and other elements within the water system. But it's $400,000 to do that, and that is a choice. We'd certainly have to go against the loan money in order to do that. It gives us a lot of flexibility in-house. It's desired. We certainly at staff level would like to see that happen, but it means more loans. So those are the three options. If we did all three, it'd be somewhere around $600,000 to $650,000 we estimate. And it's up to the commission now to talk about it and let us know what your desires are.
All right. Thank you very much for getting those options back to us. Anybody like to start?
You.
I can start. I don't usually start, but I start. This has been a process where, you know, in government sometimes we can kind of want to maybe rush things a little bit, you know, be emergency and all that. But this one where I'm really glad that we took time to think about it and whatnot, and I'm really glad that it, from the well people's opinion, that it looks like we can refurbish this well. Okay, money is an object. I guess we are somewhere between 49 and 59 million in debt, approximately, somewhere depending on what you include debt is. And so, you know, again, I did run to try and not continue to borrow lots of money. And so my opinion is that I would like to save the $20,000 and not do the lowering of the pump. I'd like to put that money towards option number two, which you have just said we might be able to cut $35,000 out of this if things go our way. there might be some other savings. So I would like to go with option number 2. And on the $400,000 line option, I just don't feel comfortable committing to that kind of money at this time. And I think we can, as you said last week or the week before, you said, yeah, we can do that at another time. So where I am is I would like to okay option number 2. Forget about option number 1. Why spend $20,000 just to lower the pump to try and do? I would just authorize us to get going on this, and let's go for option number 2, and not have the $400,000 line at this time. So I've been thinking about this for a couple of weeks. That's probably where I would land.
Excuse me, Mayor. We have public comment on this.
Then let's have that first. I'm sorry I interrupted. Who wants to speak on this?
Mr. Michael.
Please state your name for the record.
Mike Olson. I do appreciate the effort you guys have put into this and the time and the research that you had your staff do. My problem with a lot of these options, if you read through the cons, there's so many unknown this, casing may be damaged, we don't know if it's blocked. You just read through there and it's like you're, with all the professional advice out there, you still don't know what you're going to run into there. And my fear is that you're going to do this, you're going to, what do they call it? You step over $1 to pick up a dime kind of a mentality where you have this opportunity with this grant money to do it the right way the first time. If you take the chance on one of these cheaper options and it turns out to be not the right choice, and you mess around and you go too long, you have until March of 2018 to have this done if you're going to use the grant dollars. If you lose those grant dollars, I mean, your staff has told you, these guys are in this business, that you're not going to get this grant back. The cost of everything goes up. I just think it's a short-sighted mission when you don't do it right the first time. As you've stated many times, Mayor Cronch, you're a builder. You should know, cost-benefit analysis. I mean, it's a very important step when you're dealing with millions of dollars, and I really think that by taking the short-sighted, cheap version, you're going to get a short-sighted, cheap version of a result. And I just would encourage you guys to really look at this and to really think about the future of Shelton. This may be great in the short term. You're saving the citizens money. You've fulfilled a campaign pledge. But is it really what's best for the community? I really think that you need to look at these options much more closer. Your professional staff is telling you their professional opinion. You've had, Department of Health has weighed in, giving you advice. The other thing is, I wonder if these short-sighted versions will pass muster with the Department of Health. What are they going to say if they fail and you've given up the grant dollars? Where do we go then? Then you're talking about putting more things at risk in the city of Shelton. Tonight in the news, there was an issue of a 12-inch water main break in the city, Marysville, I believe. And luckily, they had planned for redundancy and were able to draw off another system, but they're going to be down up to a month, they said, in fixing this problem. We have infrastructure in the same position, old. So I really wish you would encourage you to really consider the future of Shelton, not just your own opinion on this. There's a lot of people out there that are depending on you guys to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We don't usually answer people, but I will address a couple of issues. What did Arcadia Well Drilling say about fixing this existing well? Mr. Clark, what did that expert say?
The gentleman that came from Arcadia Well Drilling's name was Jason Zach, and he has been in the business a long time, and he said, in their business, that's what they do a lot of times. They drill new wells as well, but they also recondition wells. And he seemed to feel that this was a good candidate for rehabilitation. Now, the well is 75 years old.
I just asked you what he said.
Yeah.
Okay, and thank you for that. Okay, here's the deal. We have many experts that have different opinions on this. If I'm to risk the city ratepayers' money, I'd much rather risk maybe $150,000, depending on what all this comes in at, rather than $1.3 million. I would take that risk based upon the information you just quoted from Arcadia well drilling. So that's just my best answer to that. And so it's not a conversation. And so that's why I choose to go this route. If the other two commissioners want to go in for a $1.3 million loan, they have every right to do that. They can do whatever they want to do, but I have been in this situation fighting these jump to millions and millions of dollars worth of infrastructure things, and we've been negotiating this back and trying to run things a little bit more prudent, and I feel comfortable with my decision. So, is there anybody else from the public wanting to speak on this issue?
There is, Mr. Forrest Cooper.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commission. Mayor, I'm Forrest Cooper, 409 West Railroad and 807 South 14th. I just want to comment a little bit on this. It's been a very interesting process watching this go along, and I've been fairly pleased with where it has come to this point. I feel comfortable with the information that Mr. Clark and the staff have brought back. It's great to see options. Something I've mentioned before, and I also appreciate Mike's comments too. I think there's always situations too where it is better to start new than it is to look at what you have. But in this situation, I think maybe we might want to look at this as a used car. You guys have heard me bring this up before. I have never had the luxury of buying a brand new car. I don't make enough money to be able to do it. So early on, I learned quickly how to assess problems, figure out what I could do at that time with the money that I had. And I think there's a lot of times with situations like this well situation that you can apply the same logic. You say, okay, yes, there's going to be probably potential damage down the road or unforeseen circumstances we didn't see coming, things like that. But if you have a pretty good shot of making it work, it's a pretty good step to take if it doesn't cost you a lot of money. For instance, you probably don't know the little Mini Cooper we drive around. I've burnt up a valve in that. I've had the clutch drop out. I've had all sorts of stuff happen to this little car that if I was to go out and buy a new one right now, it would be about $45,000. I don't have that. So I just keep doing what I can to fix what I can with the money that I have. And the way to do that, I can't afford anybody to work on it, so I learned to work on it myself too. And your staff has learned how to do that with a lot of their infrastructure here. This situation, however, I don't think is just a shot in the dark at fixing a problem that you have and hoping something will take. I think staff has done a relatively good job of meeting with multiple people and meeting with the guys from Arcadia to come up with some solutions that might possibly actually work and hold. So I feel comfortable with option number 2, or if you wanted to take it one step further, I'd like to know more information about the upper Mountain View pressure zone and how that would help push the water down into other areas and increase capacity. But so far, I haven't heard that information. So I'm comfortable with number 2. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Anybody else? This is, you can still sign in and talk on this subject if there's anybody else. Nobody else sign in. Anybody else would like to say anything? This is the opportunity. Okay, now we can continue on with our conversation. I'm sorry, I jump-started that one before public comment, so.
I have some questions about this. As I read it, it looks like staff recommends that the 3 components be adopted together, that we need all 3 components to ensure that the best results from whatever we choose.
It would be staff's recommendation that we move forward with all 3 options.
And my looking at, if we did go with option 2 by itself, I don't understand the value of putting a high-speed pump in a well that we have drawdown without dropping the depth of the well. It would go in that well where we have 10 feet of head, right?
Commissioner Moore, the new pump would be located 42 feet below where the existing pump is now. When we have it engineered, we would want to lower that pump in the casing if there's no obstruction that would prevent us from doing that.
Okay, I get.
And then the variable speed pump option really is just a necessary tool in order to be able to regulate better the flow that comes in and out of that pump. If we're not going to be pumping to the upper Mountain View zone because we don't build the pressure line under option 3, then being able to dial back the speed of the pump helps us to, when we're putting it into a lower pressure, do that with the newer pump. Obviously, at some point, hopefully, that pressure line would go in, and then it would allow us, without going down and doing anything to that pump, we would be able to push the water all the way to the upper Mountain View pressure zone, because we have that additional 1,500 feet of pressure line that we'd be pumping into to get up to the upper Mountain View zone, so.
So there isn't, so option 2 requires option 1 being completed as well?
It would not, no. Just lowering that pump 42 feet, what that buys us is time to get the design done, to get the contracts in place in order to complete option 2. It also possibly, depending on what happens this summer and the condition of our wells, there's the possibility that we could end up with some type of a water shortage where, you know, we would need to ration or do some kind of conservation, either alternate day watering or something to that degree, if pump 1 just doesn't work anymore.
Okay, I'm still, I apologize because I feel like I'm asking you the same question over and over. I'm looking at the paperwork and it says option 1 is drop pump and well by 42 feet, includes piping and electrical work. Option 2 is the design for a new higher pressure pump. And it doesn't say anything under option 2 as far as dropping or drilling an additional 42 feet. And so I just don't understand. If I understood you correctly, you were saying option 2, but there is no option 2 standing alone, is my understanding.
No, there is 2 standing alone. Option 1, if I can interject here, to the best of my ability, that's to me a short-term emergency possibility.
Correct.
That's all. And that is actually an option that if we really wanted to do something better for our system today, we could literally just do that and just stop there if I was really a penny pincher. But I see the need of taking a well and refurbishing the well, make the well new again, okay? The option 1, I don't know that we're going to run into that emergency situation. So if I can save $20,000, I want to save $20,000. And so am I clear in explaining to Commissioner Moore, then option 1 is just an emergency short-term situation, which actually by the time you start doing option 2, you know, that's going to be $20,000 thrown away if you get busy on option 2. Is that how you would see that?
The option 1 buys us time, lowers the existing pump in the shaft, in the casing, hopefully 42 feet. Which gives us more head that when we turn on the pump, we have the ability to draw it down and it doesn't get as close to the, you know, the pump head as it does now.
Okay.
If we do just option 2 by itself, we would just get the pump designed for the lower elevation, and then we would pull the pump all the way out and do the TVing, and then we put the new pump into the reconditioned, cleaned well, and then it would have the ability to pump to the different elevations, either upper Mountain View or Mountain View pressure zone, because of the variable speed functionality of the VFD on it.
Okay, but that would be at the same depth it is currently?
No, it would be 42 feet lower.
The key piece here is that the well is already drilled approximately 500 feet lower than where the pump is sitting.
So it would just be clearing the way down there?
Yes, it's just cleaning up, making sure the well casing is in good shape, that the screen openings or the slot openings are actually open and functioning, and then placing the new pump at a different location in the existing well shaft.
Okay, so why, so option 1 is just putting the existing well, or existing pump 42 feet lower?
Yep, it's just actually grabbing a hold of it, adding some new pipe and wire, and lowering it down.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so then I'm looking at option 3. We have a commitment to supply water pressure to the State Patrol, and it looks like Mason County Public Works? Is there a commitment for that too? And I'm wondering what would happen if we are not successful in getting the agreed upon water pressure out to those areas. Are we going to fall behind on agreements with Department of Health or with the terms of our grant?
We have a understanding between the partners that went into the putting of the water line and that out to State Patrol last year, that we need to provide them water. And thus, phase one of the Upper Mountain View project, which is underway, being built now, the new tank out at the Mason County Public Works facility, that will all be energized and operational, we hope, by a couple, 3 weeks. The only pump, well, I think pump 4 in an emergency could be jerry-rigged to possibly push water into that Upper Mountain View zone. But really, well 3 is the only pump that would be able to move water into that new tank. There's no redundancy up there. And so well 1, if we did option 3 here, would allow us to push water into the Upper Mountain View pressure zone with well 1. So we'd have well 3 and well 1 as redundant to move water into Upper Mountain View. Otherwise, we just have well 3. So it's a, I don't know, Mike, can you help at all?
Yeah, getting to the kind of the, I think the meat of your question, the tank will provide the pressure and the basic volume, or basic fluctuation for the volume. The pumps in well 3 will replenish that. If for some reason there is an issue, the problem that we have is we don't have another way to replenish the water that's used out of the new tank if something happens with well 3. And that's the reason behind our recommendation to go ahead and do this relatively short piece of new force main. And I don't remember if the comment was made, but the $400,000 that we've quoted there is based on being able to use a current contract. If we have to do some more plan preparation and actually bid a separate project, that number is likely to go higher. I can't tell you how much, but there's going to be cost for engineering, advertising, all of that, and the bid likely will be higher. We would be using the current contract with Roglins is our anticipation, using the basis for that number. But basically, by doing that, then we have 2 sources that can supply the highest tank in our system. And from there, we can get water to any other portion of the system within town through gravity.
Okay, so that, now a couple weeks ago when we were talking about this, the question of our low redundancy and our need for more redundancy was up, and is that what is is this what is addressing that question, or would we still be inadequate on our redundancy?
Typically, good practice is you have 2 sources available to every zone. By having 2 sources in that highest zone, then every zone within town generally has 2 sources. Capitol Hill is still one that has a single source through the little booster station we have there, but given its size and other factors there, we don't see that as big a problem. There's no industrial uses up there, things like that. And we've got a pretty good amount of storage for the size of that zone up there. Each of the higher zones with 2 wells going to the Upper Mountain View can interconnect and become a redundant source for other zones that way. And we get the ability to get the water where we need it and move it around as appropriate for what's going on in the system at a given time.
So if we were to go with, I'm not sure why the recommendation was option 1, 2, and 3, and I don't know if I'm just not understanding the difference in 1 and 2. I don't, because it sounds like option 1 is is addressed through option 2.
It is.
So why do you recommend the 3?
Well, the only reason for option 1 is to make sure we have water through the summer. Because if well 1 fails and that drawdown curve continues to be problematic and we can't use well 1, which is our number 1 biggest well, we more than likely are going to have to go to some kind of a conservation, alternate day watering, some type of way of conserving water, because we won't have enough to supply everybody during if the weather ever gets warm.
Yeah, our weather's been very cooperative lately, hasn't it? So, so is option 2 something that can be completed this summer? Or that's for next year? So option 1 gets us through the summer. Okay.
Yeah, option 1 is considered maintenance by the Department of Health. Option 2 is actual improvement project and requires some additional permitting and approvals through them.
Okay, and then option 3 gets us past all of the inadequacies in our system. And so we should be set fairly well with that. Would you be comfortable if we did all 3 options? And does that fulfill all our contracts, and does that fulfill our comp plan requirements? I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
just want to
okay.
know.
With regard to source, yes.
Okay.
We still are short on storage, and we're going to be back talking to you August 15th, I believe, is the date we have on the schedule for sharing a little more about our storage deficiency. But within the source arena, the only reason for option 1, like I say, is to buy us time through the summer, this summer, to make sure we don't have a problem. Option 2 can stand on its own, but now if you build just option 2, clean the well, put a new pump in there, you can't get water to the upper Mountain View zone without that pressure line that is option 3. So does that help a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It does.
It's complicated, I know.
It is very complicated, and I'm sorry that I ask the same questions over and over. I just want to make sure that I understand, and hopefully I'm covering some of the questions that other people have. Okay, I would like to hear what Kathy has to say.
Well, I have a question. I'm not an engineer. I'm glad I'm not. But can you explain to me about the Angleside tank and how much water would be in that? And when is that going to be up and running?
The Angleside tank, of course, we put a booster pump station up there last year, and when we initialized it, we had a problem in water hammer and some other things going on that wasn't predicted in the design. So we ordered a new, what they call clay valve, which is a valve that's electronically opened and closed with our SCADA system, and that will allow us to bypass some bypass piping up there that should solve that problem. We've manually closed the valve and worked it, and it works. It's just a matter of putting that in place. The crews actually have the valve sitting on the floor down at the shop. They've just been going 100 miles an hour with downtown visioning and other things. They haven't been able to get up there and install that, but that should be installed within a week or so.
And what's the storage in that one?
The storage in the upper mountain, or the
Angleside.
Angleside tank, I believe is 70.
It's right now without that pressure sustaining station, it's around 70,000, 60-some thousand. We increased that to about 260,000, which fixes the storage issues in that and the Hillcrest side of town, basically that pressure zone.
Okay.
It's not effective or useful in any of the other pressure zones in town the way it's configured.
Can there be water taken from that tank somewhere else?
No.
No,
That tank
that stands alone?
That one stands alone
Okay.
for that zone.
Okay, all
The
right.
other zones can help replenish that tank, though.
Can fill that tank back up?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so, okay, I listened to the questions being answered, so I don't really have a question about the options. I just wanted to be clear on that Angleside tank. What was going on with that?
Okay.
I had a couple more questions.
Okay.
So, when you're working on this well, and we're refurbishing the well, putting in a new motor, that well will be shut down the whole time that you're doing that, right?
That's correct.
So, back to my question on saving the 20,000. Last summer was a real hot summer. It was pretty bad. And, yeah, we drew it down. How fast would it take you if we had an emergency executive session or something? We want to say, look, we're drawing down on that well. It's 90 or it's 102 degrees here in August. Let's go ahead and lower that. How long does it take from us telling you to lower it? Would it take you to lower that pump? So I'm saying option one, maybe if we really had to have it, but if we're in 6 months, we're going to replace everything, then I'm just saying, save 20,000, save 20,000. So how soon, if we said, okay, guys, we got to put that $20,000 option into play before we redo everything? So how long would it take?
The key to that is going to be the availability of a crane to lift, to hold on to the pump while they put the new sections on and start lowering it down. When we last talked to Jason at Arcadia, he knew that a crane was available that had the capacity to do the work for us. If that's not available, the question becomes pretty open-ended. With a crane available at the time, Jason estimated it was probably about a 2-week turnaround to get started on it.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, do you remember when we actually approved option one in the $4+ million option one, that in that option, we were told, I believe, that with option one, we would be able to supply Shelton Hills and that we were all okay on that. We didn't have to go to option two. We could actually meet the water demands of Shelton Hills by just completing option one. Do you ever remember anybody saying anything like that?
I remember us discussing, the storage and that, and it's always been an issue of storage associated with option two, because that's the 1 million gallon tank that we were hoping to build up there that does satisfy our storage deficiency. It also, at that point in time, and still was concerned until we started running well one to a higher level, there was some hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide, it was a smell that was associated with the water coming out of well one, and we actually designed a system with the new tank to dissipate that odor because it required a bubblation, some kind of a bubblating system to eliminate the odor. The source issue really associated with option two has always been a needed option to my understanding.
In option two, yeah. Okay, well, I remember something a little bit different. But back to our subject at hand. I still feel comfortable in postponing the $400,000 option to a later date. And it might not be that far, because if we do have some signed contracts, if we have some legitimate start dates on Shelton Hills, then I probably would be one to move a lot faster on this water. But at the moment, we've been kind of continuing to build and continue to build, waiting for infrastructure or new businesses to pay for it. And so I think back to my original option, I think I would still not do option one, authorize the $200,000 minus, hopefully we don't have to pay that other $35,000. Maybe we can save some money in that, and that we move ahead and we would have the well taken care of and refurbished according to what some experts think is a good way to do things. So I guess I'm still settling in on that one, and my fellow commissioners are hearing all this, and we're appreciative of your time in giving us these options. So
I had a couple more points. So if we go with option one, and we have that $20,000 investment, and that includes some piping and electrical work, is that then used in option two, or it has to be completely redone?
I'm pretty confident that when they refurbish the well under option two, doing that work, do they reuse the pressure? I don't know if they reuse the pressure line. If they do, from the new pump to the surface, if we can reuse that existing pressure line, then maybe a portion of option one would be of value. Really, option one is completely off the table once you start option 2.
Okay.
Once you pull that stuff all the way out of the ground, I don't know how much of it'll be reusable or not.
You just want it to hurry up, huh?
It really, option 1, for clarity, is just kind of a safety net for this summer, that we can get that particular existing pump lowered 42 feet so that it can run without drawing it down to the point where we have to shut it off. We'd gain another 42 feet ahead, and we'd be able to run it. It needs to run. It's our number 1 pump. But obviously, it's $20,000. The mayor, you're exactly correct. If you don't spend it there, you could spend it on option 2 and roll the dice on whether or not, we're going to have a really hot enough summer that you're going to need well 1 running more than it runs right now. So.
Okay, and all of these costs are covered, are allowed under our options that we already have approved, which is, I think we spent the grant, so we're into the 1% loan now.
Yes.
And just to clarify, any of these improvements, all of the extent of that money that we borrow has already been built into the rate structure, so it would not increase our water,
That is
our
correct.
water bills?
When we developed the rates for the rate structure, it was anticipated we were going to build everything in option 1 and 2, which was the full $9 million of the loan grant offer that we had through Department of Commerce.
And how is the well working now? What have been the recent numbers as far as the head and the drawdown?
Weekly, they have to shut it off. As soon as they turn it on, they typically want to run it somewhere between 12 and 16 hours a day, and they manually have to go in and shut it down. Not every day. I don't have the exact numbers, but the guys are very nervous. They have to shut it off enough that it's not reliable.
Okay, and that is with our weather cooperating.
This is I'm sorry, Commissioner Moore, this is brand new information to me, that our crew has to shut it off daily or every other day, because it's not, is it supposed to run the full 12 hours? Does it have to, or shouldn't it be shut off anyway? See, I need clarification on this, because this may change my opinion on the $20,000 option. So we need clear facts on this, guys, because if we got crews spending time running up, shutting a well on or off, I did not hear that. This is the first time I've heard that, and you know what I'm saying. So that makes a whole nother, enters a whole nother picture into. But what I'm confused about, how much we have to run that well. I mean, does it have to be shut off anyway, or I guess I'm not clear on how that works. You see where I'm coming from on this?
I thought I've made it clear that the well in its operation can't just run manually or electronically through our SCADA system. That
Right.
It draws the head of that well surface down to the point where we physically have to shut it off. Because SCADA's still telling it needs water in our tanks, and so it wants it to run, and we have to shut it off manually.
You did that last summer too?
Yes,
Pretty much all summer long.
yes.
You don't have to do it in the winter time, though?
No.
Not in the winter.
Yeah. Well, it is, the other pumps are able to keep up in the winter because we don't have as big a demand, but the other pumps don't pump as much water as well 1 does. And so therefore, during the summer months, we rely on well 1 to a higher level, and now that it's experiencing, this drawdown problem, we are concerned. And Mayor, I'm more than happy to try and get you some specific numbers.
Well, I'm getting a little more information here, and I'm sorry, I'm not blaming you that I didn't hear that. It's just, I did not know, because it costs money for man hours to run up and do that, okay? So I guess I'm open to the possibility of changing my mind, which is not a bad thing, it's a good thing, to including the 20,000 now, because you're not going to shut that well down until winter time,
That's correct.
right? So we do have August and September coming up, and $20,000, we may be spending that and guys running over there and flipping the switch all the time, right?
That's true.
I'm speaking in defense of you guys. You should be shaking your heads on this.
Yeah, no, you're
I'm
exactly correct.
I'm probably open to change my mind and throwing $20,000 at something because it's something that requires a lot more maintenance and employee time right now than it should. And we're still looking at 4 or 5 months before we do it. So I am probably going to change my idea to go ahead and go with option 1 and option 2, okay, without the $400,000 line. And I'm sorry that I interrupted you, but that was brand new to me.
I would like to know how many man-hours and the cost per hour that it's costing you to go up there and manually turn that on and off.
Well,
Is there an idea of how?
again, turning it off, an alarm goes off, and the guys have to respond, and typically it's through the SCADA system that they turn it off.
Does it go off in the middle of the night?
Oh, yeah.
So someone has to get up and go,
Well, they have to come down and
In the
work
middle of the night.
work the SCADA system to turn it off and on and monitor it and find out what's going on. I don't know if there's a very consistent pattern, but what the guys are telling me is that they're shutting it off weekly, if not a couple, 3 times a week.
so you wouldn't have an idea what that's costing to be
I could
doing
find
that?
out.
Could you? I would like to know that. Thank you. I didn't know that was going, maybe someone told me that in conversation that was happening, about going and turning it on and off. I don't remember that, but I'd like to know those numbers.
Sure, I can
Thank
get you
you.
those numbers.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along here, I feel very comfortable moving ahead with the 3 options. And I have a feeling that Mayor Krantz is not going to go that far. And so I think that it would be a question for Commissioner McDowell. I definitely feel like we need to do the most that we can while we have the option for the 1% loan, especially given that this will not affect our rates at all. And I feel like the cost has come down a lot. It's no longer 1.3 million. We're down to less than half of that. So congratulations on the different options presented and trying to work that out. And I am confident with the input from Department of Health and from staff and from the other experts that you've talked to as far as this being a good recommendation.
Quick comment, point of clarification. When we talk about this will not affect our rates, because obviously the rates are very important to the people that are paying them. When we say the term, this will not affect our rates, the rates were set under the assumption that we were going to do a $9 million system, right? So it would not affect those rates, but we've already reduced that down to a $4 million, okay? I mean, we're not going with the other $4 million, okay? So if we did nothing, okay, if we did absolutely zero from this point forward, the assumed rate, there's still rate increases. You've got built-in rate increases, 4% a year, is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
4% a year, okay? And I don't want to raise any rates next year, okay? I don't want to do that. These people went through a 38% rate increase in 6 months. So that's back to where I'm coming from. So what you're doing by adding another $600,000 is it will affect the existing rates. When we say it's not going to affect the rates, it means with the 4% included. So the rates are going up according to, but when we say we're not going to affect the rates, we're not affecting the rates according to what we chose to set them at, doing a $9 million system. So rates will go up more no matter if we don't do anything, they'll go up less than if we do more. If we do the $400,000, they will go up more from today, not according to your pre-scheduled rate increases, okay? So I'm not talking about those rate increases. This will affect our rates if we do this. That $400,000 will definitely affect the people's rates.
Is that a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, I can ask you that question.
The ordinance that was passed for the rate increases, if the commission doesn't withdraw those existing rate increases, then there would not be any change. I mean, those rates are already in place and needed for debt service. you're exactly right, though, Mayor. If we don't borrow the full 9 million, it's possible you could reduce those rates to a certain level. I don't know what that is, but.
Right. But the idea that this will not affect our rates is based upon we're going to raise the people's rates 4% a year for the next 6 years. Is that what it was said at? So it will affect the rates. Any more money we borrow affects the rates, okay? Not according to the world of already set higher rates. I'm trying to pull the rates down, not push them farther up, so.
I would just like to make the point, and this is kind of off the subject a little bit, but I would like to point out too that I attended a workshop. I brought back a lot of information that was presented from the state and from the Public Works Board that really warned against not keeping rates moving in a direction that would lead to not having to borrow in the future. If we don't raise our rates, if we don't maintain our system, if we don't keep enough money there to pay our debt service and do repairs, we would be faced with higher rate increases in the future, because then you might go for 4 years with no rate increases, and then boom, costs have escalated, and it would mean like maybe a 12% rate increase. And I don't want to do that. I mean, we've talked about that, and the consensus has always been that it's much better to have a stable rate increase rather than maybe a flat one and then play catch up. So, and granted, yes, it is built in. The loan is built into the rate increases, but what I think is a misconception often is that if we spend any of this money, it's going to be on top of the scheduled rate increases, and it will not be on top of the scheduled rate increases.
Very good, and I respectfully agree to disagree. Respectfully, we all have skin in this game. We're all trying to do the best for the citizens of Shelton. So I don't know, Commissioner McDowell, you want to enter into this one? Probably not. You don't have to.
I have some thoughts that I'd like to think about it a little bit more and talk a little bit
Okay.
more, but I'm not for the three. If we do need to do the one and then the two, if we have to do the one, then I'm for that.
But you want more time to study even the one,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
So I think we postpone this until, bring it back under old business next week.
Yeah.
I guess that, what do you say, Mr. Administrator? Is that a proper way to do this?
Yes.
Okay, oh, that wasn't hard. Okay, and it's nothing wrong with disagreeing. This is how you come to answers, hopefully, that there's nothing wrong with this. This is just different points, different perspectives, and different things. Nothing of this is personal grudge stuff. So, what we're going to do on this one is I'm going to, it looks like we wanted a motion, but we don't need the motion. All we need is to concur that we want to bring this back under for more information from staff about what's it cost right now for you, and that will be for the next probably 3 months for a guy to continue to flip the switch on and off. That's what Commissioner McDowell, I think, was looking for. So if we concur, we'll bring this back under old business next meeting.
You're not going to be here next week, so
Well,
are you going to want to
there
be
you
here for
go.
that?
Well, yeah, but I won't cancel my Alaskan
cancel a
cruise
cruise?
just for a vote, so I guess,
Okay.
but then it might be a stalemate, or
Right.
unless you guys so. We have to do business according to business, so I would probably highly recommend that if we're all going to be here in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
okay?
I would feel more comfortable with that.
Okay, so to amend my concurrence comments, then,
Yeah.
2 weeks from today, we will take a look at that issue again. Thank you very much. New business. We got new business here. And this is a United Way Day of Caring, and it's something that I believe Greg Clark is going to talk to us about.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the United Way Day of Caring that Tracy, Commissioner Moore has talked to, that's a partnership with quite a few organizations within the Mason County here. What we did on a staff level is try to bring you, commissioners, some options that you might pick from to do this type of cleaning for. It's my understanding, and Tracy, you need to help me out here a little bit, is the Day of Caring just August 18th, or is it like that week, or?
There are going to be two projects. There will be one project on the Thursday, I believe, and the
18th.
second, and then there will be an additional part of that on that Saturday, so that people who can't get off work to participate midweek can also care on the weekend.
Okay. The three options we put before you here, option A is a program that we did for several years here in Shelton, where we encouraged people once a year or twice a year, I can't remember what we actually did, but would put their waste products, their recyclables, their stuff they want to get rid of at the end of their driveway, and then our street crew would go around and pick this stuff up and put it into the appropriate either recycle or to the landfill and haul it away. It was a pretty expensive process. It took our staff several weeks to go through and do that. And it really didn't seem like it did a very good job, because people would just kind of store stuff up and wait for the day that we'd come around and get it, instead of just taking it to the landfill by themselves. So option A, we wanted to put it before you because it may be the desire that we do that again, but it does have a pretty expensive cost associated with it. Option 2 is an idea that we actually brought to you during the retreat as a kind of a day of caring, but it was an option to have a day where, and this would best be served on a Saturday, because our crews are busy picking up regular garbage or recycle during the week. But if this was done on a Saturday for, say, 4 hours, maybe the city gravel lot could be used as a hub where people could bring their goods to be recycled. They could bring their yard waste, and possibly the service clubs in town could help people that maybe can't get down here. But it would be an opportunity to recycle and have a way that we could haul it to the transfer station for them from one location. And we could possibly, we're thinking that maybe we have a local recycler in the area here. I think it's called, I got it on here.
Paymore.
There you go, Paymore. Might partner with us in doing that, because they're kind of a recycling mecca there in the north end of town, and they might be able to do this with us. We have not contacted them, but that is their business. And then option 3 is a voucher system, where really it depends on how much money the commission would want to take out of the solid waste utility to put towards this. But we figured if the average amount of cost associated with a large dump truck worth of stuff going to the dump is about $30, that depending on how much United Way covers, and together with a partnership with us on this, that maybe these vouchers could be used to make that day of caring go a lot further. And the vouchers could be used by service clubs to help people move things to the transfer station. And our thought was that we'd have like maybe 100 vouchers that would be available, and people could come down and get those, maybe one per household. And if we did that, we figured it would be about $3,000 worth of cost. But the vouchers seemed like it would be staff's preferred option, but the commissioners, if you want us to do one of the others, that's fine too. But we just wanted to bring you something to entertain as to how we might partnership with this Day of Caring.
Great. And I would just like to give a little bit of the background on this. Is Day of Caring traditionally has been different nonprofits would submit their projects, and then United Way would gather the volunteers and assign volunteers to each of the projects. And that's been very effective and very popular and really great. But the vision this year is to do something really impactful, that we can make a difference and do something that is visual and more inclusive even than the other projects that we've had. And so the United Way director approached me several months ago to work on this, and Darren Moody has been involved in this as well. And we will be partnering with Shelton to the Top, and quite honestly, that was a good motivation and maybe one of the things that sparked the conversation that let's do this citywide cleanup. And so I have been in contact with Eric Burt to to get a list of the most offensive properties, and maybe the people that physically cannot get their yards cleaned up or their trash cleaned up, you know, people that are disabled or just don't have the money to do that. And so we will be focusing on many of those situations too. And so I think it'll be, hopefully it will be a real difference maker, because I'm anticipating that we'll have well over 100 people cleaning up and helping and building community that way. So that's just some of the background, and Kevin is here, and I don't know if that's appropriate, if
Well, I just have one
Absolutely.
real quick question. So we give out 100 vouchers. Do every one of those people that gets a voucher, they have a truck and they can use, how does that work?
Well, it would be, there would be volunteers with trucks
With
and
trucks,
with
okay.
help muscle to help
Okay.
move.
All right.
And we have talked about it, and if we do go with the voucher system, there would be definitely ID required, so that it was city residents
Right.
who the money was going towards, so that it
Okay.
actually does impact the city. And then I believe there are follow-up projects scheduled for other areas in Mason County.
Okay.
So,
I think it'd be fine to have Kevin come and speak for a few minutes, seeing as how this is part of his world, you know? And we'll break the little tradition of
Yes.
whatever we do with the sign-in, but this is asking a guest speaker to come and interject some information at a needed point in the meeting. Kevin, would you like to come forward and say a little bit to us
Mr. Schmidt.
about this?
he-
You can?
He has signed up for.
Has he?
oh,
Yes.
Oh, so we don't have to break any of those rules, do we? Okay. You got
Hi.
time.
thank you, Kevin. I didn't warn you I was going to ask you.
Oh, it's okay. Good evening. It's good to see you all. So I'm the founder and lead organizer of Shelton to the Top. We've been doing weekly trash cleanup since early February, for those who are not familiar with our group, our movement. And I initially reached out to the Mason County Commission about a free dump day. That's kind of what got me interested in this, because we've been picking up trash and we're trying to find ways to keep that trash from ever hitting the ground to begin with. And I went to the Mason County Commissioners, and they said, logistically, that's a headache, having that free dump day, but they are interested in some sort of voucher system as well. And so when Commissioner Moore mentioned that we're looking to do these cleanups throughout the county, that's where that funding would be coming from. But, it's a large county, and the idea was for us to be working in Shelton from the beginning, along with, these other areas. But in coming up with this voucher system, I personally love that idea for the city, if you are willing to use those funds. But Shelton to the Top, we've been doing these cleanups in public areas or on private land that's basically used as public area, not areas where there's houses or people living in those areas. And so the idea for this is there's so many neighborhoods, so many houses that have junk cars or boats or burnt out RVs in front of them, or just piles of trash or piles of recycling. And so Shelton to the Top, what we plan to do is actually work with these homeowners, these property owners, to help them pick up their trash. Because some people are just too busy or arguably lazy, to pick up this trash, but there's a lot of people who are elderly or disabled who aren't physically very able to pick up all this garbage and deal with all this. So we are doing a lot of the heavy lifting as far as the logistics, figuring out how we're going to tow a lot of these boats and RVs and other vehicles, dealing with the recycling. So the more assistance that the city of Shelton is able to give, I think, in addition to our efforts, I think it's going to make a huge difference for the city of Shelton, because we've been going, again, for these kind of pockets, these certain areas. But I think this is an opportunity for a day and a week to really make a huge visual impact and really bring Shelton to the top, which is the idea of Shelton to the Top to begin with, that we're a city that people are proud to live in, that people want to visit, that people are proud to call home. And I think that aesthetic, that visual aspect is so important to that.
Thank you for your input, Kevin. I thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Well, I'm in favor of it. Okay, I like it. I think it's great working with the United Way. But I read through the proposals like 2 or 3 times, and it seemed like I kind of wanted to pick a little bit out of each one. So I'm not positive. It's hard for me to just pick one. If I was to pick one, obviously for price, the number C option would look pretty good. I have a little, there's always a question on vouchers, just giving them to people. Even people can take things and use different IDs to get things done. So I guess a friendly suggestion might be the possibility that the vouchers go to the nonprofits. And the nonprofits add another layer of protection, that these are really the problem, that you have another layer of, not city, maybe volunteers to go and know these people that they are familiar with to deal with. They can, rather than just kind of give it out to the guy that just doesn't want to pay the dump fee. So I guess I would be open for the option 3 if my recommendation, and we, just an idea, give them to the nonprofits rather than just come in, if you live in the city, get your voucher. I think we need to get them to the people. We ought to possibly, or go to the houses and say, look at this, they'll come here on Saturday. This is your free ticket to clean this whole thing up. Do you want it? Maybe even something like that. But if we target this to the real problem ones, not just the people who got a little bit sitting in their yard, then I think I'd be all for it. And I might even be for more money than this. We're taking it out of the solid waste fund. There's usually a little bit of money in that fund. That's going to cut solid waste? I mean, do you have money for this in the budget? I know it's not budgeted, but I mean.
The solid waste budget is tight.
It is tight.
But, I think can afford to partner up to whatever amount the commission wants to do. I mean, I haven't done the financial cash position of our solid waste utility, but this should not be a problem in the $3,000 to $4,000 range, depending on how many vouchers you want to do. It was just an option that we put together, so you can, maybe Mayor, it's a hybrid of these.
Yeah, I wrote hybrid down there. I think it's a great idea. I'm just not positive that I think we might want to just think a little bit more about some of the concerns. Maybe we could submit some concerns to our administrator or something, and he could communicate between us and say, look, this is what we 3 commissioners are kind of concerned about, and then get something written up. And I could probably approve myself a $3,000 budget to work with United Way on this cause. I think I don't have a problem with that, something we've talked about. It's just fine tuning the voucher thing, I guess. So.
Oh, and that is, our committee is very on top of that. We are discussing various options to make sure that none of the vouchers get wasted. Or, sometimes people will say, yes, I want a voucher, and then they never use it. So we do not want that to happen. And so there has been some discussion as to how to make sure that every single voucher is used according to the way it's designed to be used. And so that is something that we're working on internally on the committee.
Well, I like the idea a lot, because I live in a little neighborhood that people around me have issues with picking their garbage up, and it is frustrating.
That's not me, is it?
Well, you live in my neighborhood.
Well, kind of. Is it like 3 or 4 block area? I mean, just don't blame me on that one.
No, I'm not saying anybody, but
Okay.
just some neighbors that have issues. They wait till Eric comes and knocks on their door and says, you got to clean this up or we're going to fine you. Then they clean it up, and then a month later, it's back again.
Well,
So,
yeah,
and they're
it's an issue.
capable, and then how do we determine who's really needs it and who doesn't need it? I mean, what if you get a big, strong guy that's capable of cleaning up, but, now I have this voucher, I'll let someone else do the work and off the
That
garbage.
may happen. I guess we have to look at what the actual goal is.
Yeah.
In that case, we do have volunteers, and Kevin and his group have offered to take the list that I get from Eric and knock on doors, and so that it's not, someone from the city who wants to and force them to get rid of their junk, but giving them an opportunity.
Yeah.
Being 100% for it, here's liability question enters into my lawyer brain here. And so, Mr. Administrator, you might want to make a note that if Kevin, when he does his thing, we've separated ourselves on purpose for liability situations. Now we're kind of partnering with Kevin and the United Way in something. I probably would request a lawyer's input on how that works.
I,
If-
I,
you
I
know.
do have the information on that. Everyone who participates, each of the volunteers, has to provide liability insurance.
Wow.
Okay, so if they
Well-
go onto someone's property when they get hurt, then the
Yeah, and
property
it
owner-
calls, and if it's somebody who isn't part of an actual organization, then they fall under United Way's liability insurance.
Okay. I would actually, and that's good, and I mean, looks like we want action on this tonight. That's what it's looking like here, so.
I would, we have a meeting tomorrow morning, and so what I would really appreciate having is just some direction as far as what is the, what cost are you comfortable with as far as what outlay? And then if I could meet with Kevin and the other groups tomorrow, then we can figure out what meshes together so that we're able to get the most bang for the buck.
We're not talking about mowing people's lawns or anything.
No, no, no.
Just picking the garbage up, right?
Yeah, well, and if that may be part
Well, if the
of,
root's
that
all
may be
around.
part of
There's
the
another-
project, but that's not what we're asking from the
Right.
city.
Okay, all right. But that could be an extension with United Way.
Absolutely, it could.
Okay.
Our city administrator has a look in his eye, he may want to speak.
I have a question, since I've only been here a short time and will be here even a shorter time in the future. How have you handled volunteers before? As I understand, you have a volunteer sign up. Are you also covering the labor and industries industrial insurance?
No,
You don't have to usually do it with, I'm just concerned about the mixing of groups and liability to the city. And I don't,
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm all for it as long as
Okay.
we cover our tracks
Okay.
and it's done
Well,
legally.
I'm meeting with the attorney Thursday. I'll ask the question, but it's my understanding that option 3 takes it totally out of our hands. We aren't sponsoring anybody. We're providing a voucher for a public purpose.
Okay, so,
Okay.
for example, dropping Kevin's name again, sorry, Kevin, but when Kevin goes and knocks on the door and says, hey, we're partnering with the city and United Way to clean up your space. From your is that from your understanding, Pete, is that still fall under that we're separate entities?
Well, I'm going to check with the attorney on Thursday, but I'm pretty confident that we will find a way to
Right.
reduce any potential liability.
Okay, if we do that, I can agree to the option number 3 with a $3,000 budget. So Commissioner McDowell, is that,
Yes,
she's okay with that?
Thank
And
you.
I am.
Is that all right?
Yep.
All right, there we
Thanks.
go. I think.
and I think, and just to say one more thing about it, I just want to be clear, it is a United Way Day of Caring project, and so there will be many, many entities participating.
Sure.
So it's not
Yeah.
a City of Shelton project.
Right.
right.
It just benefits City
It's
of
always
Shelton.
good to ask those questions first and then, any more?
We need a motion, Mr. Mayor,
Okay, so,
and there's
I
a
don't know-
recommended motion, I believe, on the bottom of the yellow sheet.
yeah, it says we can approve this option, but I guess to be a stick in the mud to a degree, it's kind of, I believe Commissioner Moore can go and tell the group we're all for it, but we have a couple of questions that before we put the 100% stamp on it, I would like to hear from legal on Thursday to the best of your ability on this, because I am not familiar 100% with how we've done in the past. I may be wrong, but I'd rather make sure that we get that information.
I would like
So-
all the questions to be answered before we make a motion. Is that a
Okay,
possibility?
the questions are given to Pete.
And whatever comes back, if you have some things you discuss tomorrow, you can bring back.
I
and-
can bring a report back
Right,
next
I would
week.
like that before we make a motion on that.
Okay.
Okay.
And my vote, if I'm not here, is I want to do it, okay? Just in case you
We'll
want.
call you on your
Yeah, call me.
cruise ship.
Well, I gotta take a vacation once a year, so.
Yep.
All right, I guess we can.
Just for clarification, we're going to
Yes,
bring this back under old business for next week.
Yes.
That'd be fine. Yes, did we need to make a motion to say that, or are we okay on that? That's a concur thing.
We're okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, administration reports, anything Mr. Buckus wants to tell us tonight?
Well, a couple of comments, Commission. I won't be here, but I think I'm going to be in a position to publicly encourage you to do something early next year. And that's have actually a policy retreat where the public and the staff can benefit from your input. We heard a request tonight about a gravel road, and there are several in the city. So let me suggest what this might look like. You might, for example, want to put a policy or several policy statements forth about priorities for investing some of those local transportation benefit dollars back in the community. For example, you may, as one priority, want to have the gravel roadways identified and prioritized for paving on both an environmental and a public health basis for dust control. That doesn't mean that we bring it up to a full standard with curb and gutter and sidewalks. Those are improvements that are generally paid for by the frontage owners and then turned over to the city for maintenance. But it does mean that you could identify those roads that have a gravel surface now and prioritize them for a lower maintenance level of paving to take care of the dust issues. Secondly, it might look like you want to identify substandard conditions on transit routes, and I'll give you an example. At the corner of Coda and First Street, there are a number of sunken Portland cement panels that are fun to drive over in a stiff suspension pickup truck, but when you watch the buses drive over them, I'm sure it's a little bit of a seasick motion. That could be a council or a commission priority. And then you may also want to go back beyond that and urge your staff to look at a pavement management system to help you prioritize which other roadways in the city can benefit by a quick action like a fogging seal or a slurry seal or chip seal and can be saved from further deterioration versus those that are going to take the full treatment rehabilitation, which are very costly. Those are the kind of things that would benefit your community that you serve and also benefit the staff. Then they know how to put things together for budget in future years. Secondly, we talked about water supply and water storage, and I won't be here on the 18th of next month when you take on looking at water storage options. But here's a comment. As I understand how the Department of Health determines what your water supply and your water storage would be is based on land use within the urban growth area. So I understand that at some future date you're considering action to add some urban growth area that would include industrial land. That would mean the Department of Health would say you have X number of additional acres of industrial land in your urban growth area, therefore your water storage requirements have increased. Now, some of the audience may say, well, that sounds kind of bureaucratic. Why don't they wait until the land is actually developed? Well, the reason is it's actually anti-bureaucratic. If they simply go by the land use designation, developed or undeveloped, it requires a much smaller staff at the State Department of Health to make that determination. So I'm just trying to bring all this up to say, when you get decisions like this about expanding the urban growth area, make sure you ask the staff ahead of time, what are the possible negative implications? And additional water storage or supply could be one of them. And that's my administration comments.
Thank you very much. We have another general public comment opportunity now, if anybody would like to speak. Is anybody additional signed up? No? Yes. Different subject, come and state your name for the record, please.
Mike Olson. Just a couple of thoughts on the whole meeting tonight. One, what Pete was referring to was something we had discussed as we went forward with the Transportation Benefit District, and that was an advisory committee involving the public in giving the staff assistance and guidance in surveying sidewalks and roads. I think that's a great idea, and I know that the staff could really use the help of walking each mile of the city. Another comment on the volunteer situation. I believe there is a policy for volunteers that you pay a reduced rate to L&I. If you sign the L&I thing, it's already, I think Leslie Ann probably knows about that, that it's all pretty much covered. You just have to have a waiver signed that the city offers that. And I think you're overthinking this whole day of caring thing. I think you have it figured out already. Eric and Jason know exactly where the 100 homes are in the community. Let them do it with Kevin's help and offer the vouchers that way. And then my final thing is Lake Boulevard is quickly almost done. And I had this crazy thought about, you see other cities when they open a new bridge or a new street. This is a pretty historic event in the community. Why not have a groundbreaking ceremony and close off a couple of blocks and let the kids chalk it up and ride on their bikes and, march up and down it for a little while and have some fun with it. It's a great community building effort. I think you guys have done a great job and you should show it off.
I kept saying we need a party. No one's listening to me.
No,
Thank you, Mike.
Parties are good.
I think we're going to have a party.
So, yes, actually, staff is planning on
Yay.
a ribbon-cutting ceremony to speak of on August 1st in the afternoon. I believe we have it currently planned for 2:30.
I'm going to wear my my hard hat and my bright vest.
All right. Any more administration final touches? Hearing none, seeing none, the announcement is that our next meeting will be Monday, July 25th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting,
You're going to announce that you're going to be gone and I'm going to be sitting in for you.
should I do that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to be gone next Monday, and Kathy McDowell will be the mayor pro tem. This meeting is adjourned.